Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thanks so much for joining us this evening or afternoon, depending on where you are, for our PhD in Educational Leadership and Policy webinar. My name is Renata Arif, and I work here in the Graduate School of Education Admissions Office. And presenting our session, we have Dr. Nate Don Barnett. He's going to go over the PhD program. There'll be an opportunity to ask questions along the way. You're welcome to type them in the chat. In the meantime, don't worry about jotting everything down in our presentation. We will be sharing the presentation in addition to the recording. So if you would like to recap or you missed some parts, you're welcome to review that tomorrow when we send it. So I'll go ahead and hand it over to Dr. Nate Dunn Barnett.
Thanks, Renat. And welcome, everyone. It's good to see you all here. I'm going to share my screen and share a little PowerPoint that will walk through some of the information that I think will be. What view are we seeing, Renat? Do you see the full thing or my notes too?
I see the note view, the presenter with the notes.
All right, how's that?
Yes, there we go.
Okay, very good. So again, welcome. I'm excited to talk with you a little bit about the doctoral program in educational leadership and policy tonight. And it's an exciting time for our program area. We're in the process of really streamlining and refining our doctoral education program here with an eye toward doctoral excellence. And what I'm going to share with you is the direction that we're going. And so you'll have a sense of what this is going to look like moving forward. And when I think about this presentation, I want to talk a bit about the PhD and the three different concentration areas that the PhD offers. I'll talk a little bit about the faculty. I'll give you a little sense of who they are and where they're coming from. We'll talk a bit about assistantships, the application process, and we'll do question and answer. Sometimes we'll have some students who can talk about their experience, but this time we don't. And hopefully I can answer any questions that you have. By the end of the session, I hope that you have the information you need to make a decision about whether this program may be a good fit for the direction you'd like to go with your doctoral program. So a couple things. First, and I will tell you that I love UB. I've been at UB for 16 years now, and I actually grew up in Western New York. UB is a premier research intensive university, and R1 is what most folks think of it as. Research matters. It's a primary driver of an institution like this. The generation of new knowledge is critical, and that's what makes a place like UB really important when you think about doctoral education. You'll be working with researchers who are on the cutting edge of their respective fields, and that's the kind of education that will set you up well for whatever you decide to do beyond the PhD. The faculty are an exceptional group of faculty, and I'll show you them in a moment, who are doing some really important work across both K-12 and higher education and thinking about issues of stratification and globalization in education. We've got over 30,000 students at the university, and probably a little less than a third of those are graduate students. And of course, we're located in Buffalo, New York, which for those of you who aren't familiar with New York State or even the US, I know we've got some folks from across the globe. We are about 7 or 8 hours drive from New York City. So probably about 400 plus miles. So we're as much a Midwest city as we are an East Coast city. And here's what you can expect from these programs. You're going to work on understanding the challenges that students face. I think we all are interested in issues of equity and diversity across the curriculum and in the classroom. We recognize that some of the biggest challenges that we face as societies today are as a consequence of inequalities that exist regardless of national context. We emphasize connecting theory and practice in ways that are both useful for practitioners who are working in the field and also for researchers who are thinking about how their research will apply to real world situations. Because at the end of the day, we are all fundamentally trying to understand and solve complex problems um, that impede our ability to provide high quality education to all students. And then, of course, we partner with our folks on campus and across Western New York. Um, and, and there are opportunities for folks to be engaged as a result of those. So you see, this is the way we're moving towards organizing this. Previously, we've had 3 separate degree programs. And what we've recognized is that there is a much better way to think about this and a much more cohesive program for students to share their insights and knowledge across these 3 different areas. And we have for a long time viewed our work as P16 in its orientation from preschool on through at least undergraduate education. And all 3 of these programs contribute to our understanding of that. Education, culture, policy, and society is comparable to like a sociology of education program. And all 3 programs draw heavily on sociology, on economics, and to a certain degree on business as well. So when we think about what the program requires, and I always encourage folks to think in these buckets when they think about the curriculum, what their experience is going to be while in the program. This is a 56-hour program that requires a master's degree before anyone enrolls. In the past, we have made it possible for folks without a master's degree to do it, but we've really found across these areas that the master's degree is really essential, both in terms of the core content, but also in terms of the level of experience that folks have coming into the degree program. So when you think about it, the first is the doctoral core, the 4 courses that all students will take across the 3 areas. There's a pro seminar that really prepares you for understanding and kind of entering into doctoral education. And then you have foundational courses in sociology, public policy, and organizational theory. And so that common core is applicable no matter which direction folks go in the PhD. And then you're going to have about 18 to 20 credits of methodological training. When you think about the doctoral when you think about the doctorate, really what you are conducting independent research. And most of us haven't had very much methodological training prior to coming into a doctoral program. So you'll find that these programs, and this program in particular, is method intensive, right? And so you've got 2 statistics and quantitative methods courses, 2 qualitative methods courses, and then you'd have an advanced methods course that prepares you specifically for the kind of research that you want to do. The final course in that sequence then is the proposal writing, and really being systematic in your approach to preparing to do your independent research. The cognate is, or concentration, depending on how you want the term that you want to use. This is often what we think of is a PhD provides us a way to make a new contribution to the field. And often the contribution that we're making is drawing on knowledge from multiple domains to help us understand the complex challenges that we're trying to understand. And so here you might see someone look at core courses in or cognate courses in business administration if they were interested in that side of education, or they could take a cognate in sociology or psychology, depending on if they were looking at the institution or at the individual or so on. And then those cognates then help inform the way you think about the kinds of questions you ask in the concentration that you're in. And then the final portion is the dissertation writing. You'll already do the proposal writing prior to that. We expect a minimum of 9 credits of dissertation writing, which is about a year and a half. And that's a year and a half is post-proposal. And so that's typically what it will take if you're working full-time on a doctoral degree, and working hard towards the culmination of um, that dissertation. When you look at the three different concentrations, so they share a common core, they share common methods, and the dissertation piece is the same. Each has a different expectation for what you would do in the concentration. So in higher education, it's a bit more prescriptive, largely because we don't have an undergraduate program that feeds into graduate level work in higher ed. And so the concentration includes all of these courses, the 4 courses that you see on top, and then 2 electives. When you go to the K-12 administration, they're on the other end of the spectrum, and all of their courses are elective. And that's largely because by the time folks come into a PhD in educational administration, they have already had teacher training at the undergraduate level, master's or postgraduate level training in academic leadership for buildings and districts. And so here they have more flexibility to define their own concentration. And then the final concentration is in educational culture, policy, and society. And you see the 3, well, the 2 courses that are required, and then the flexibility that you have after that. And you can see that globalization and stratification are really the 2 hallmark areas in ECPS, and that's why you see requirements in each one of those domains. Oh, and this is when we have prior independent programs. And so let me share with you a little bit about the faculty. So we have, I'll show you really quickly, we've got 13 faculty currently, 2 that are retiring, and then 2 more that we're hiring. But these are the folks who currently teach in our doctoral education or doctorate in leadership and policy. You'll see, and on the slides, I've indicated where they've come from in terms of their academic training as for their doctoral programs. And this first slide are the faculty who teach in higher education. So in that concentration, you'll take courses with any or all of us. And right now, with the exception of Dr. Pope, who is a full-time administrator, so she's not currently teaching classes, but all the others are looking at higher education, specifically looking at questions related to educational and economic inequality. Megan and I both focus on sort of the transitions. She is a trained sociologist looking at transitions along the educational pathway. I focus more specifically on the high school to college transition. Dr. Salee focuses more of her research on work-life balance in academia and the life of faculty and the roles of graduate students. Dr. Santa Ramirez looks at issues related to immigration status and higher education for undocumented students in the U.S. And Dr. Wicker's work is grounded in counseling, and she focuses on wellness and well-being in higher education. And so one of the things that you'll want to do, and I'll go on to the next slide in a second, but as you think about the programs, take a look at the interests of the faculty. When you're applying to doctoral programs, you're really looking for a fit between your research interest, even if they're not yet fully formed, and the research interests of the faculty members. That alignment will help us figure out the fit and whether we're a place that can help you do the work that you're hoping to do. Dr. Han and Dr. Wu, one sociologist and one anthropologist, really also look at sort of globalization in education, P16. And then Dr. Stone Johnson, Mede, Baxley, and Freed all teach in the Ed Administration program. The first 2 are in ECPS, and the others are all in K-12 educational administration. Dr. Lemke focuses more on public policy and sort of straddles the 3 program areas. And yeah, so those are the faculty members. So I would encourage folks to take a look at our website, take a look at their specific research, maybe even some of their articles, and that will give you a clear sense if their work is a good fit for the kinds of things that you're thinking about. And this just gives you a little sample of some of the publications that um, have come out. These are books that have come out of our department in recent years. Um, I'll have the third edition of my public policy and higher ed book coming out this fall. Um, and you can see the other ones as well. So I want to spend a moment talking about assistantships. So one of the um, one of the important parts of doctoral education, depending on how you plan to do it, is to consider assistantships for two reasons. One, obviously funding for doctoral education, being able to pay for the expense associated with that is an important feature. But two, and arguably more important in terms of finishing the degree, is being able to work with somebody on faculty who can provide you with the kinds of experiences and opportunities that will prepare you well to do your independent research and potentially even work on a publication or two or a research project that gives you some of those skill sets. And so here you'll see we have both fellowships and assistantships available. And what I can tell you is that probably a third of the students that we admit in any given year are offered funding. It is very competitive, the funded lines. And some of those are graduate assistantships, and then there are fellowships for certain ones. We have, I think, 3 fellowship programs, and Renat can talk about those a little bit, but one is the presidential fellows. The other is the Schomburg Fellows, which focuses on first-gen, low-income, racially minoritized, and those with a commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion in their work. And the presidential is based purely on academic merit from their prior experience. And then there's a graduate student one that, Renat, do you recall the details on the graduate school fellowship?
So there's one for the dean, so that's the dean's I think fellowship. It used to be called the Dean's Diversity Scholarship. But I think they took out the word diversity.
Okay,
But I'm not sure the amount that's given for that one. We do have a couple within education.
okay, got it. And so then, really, then we think about how to apply. Okay, um, and this is really just for the doctoral students, but January 1st deadline. The things that are most important, your transcripts are number one. We want to know that you are academically prepared to do doctoral level work, and that's based on your experience coming out of undergrad and graduate programs. And so we want to see those. We put down that you can submit unofficial transcripts for this process. Ultimately, if you enroll, you will need official transcripts from your institutions. We ask for 3 letters of reference from folks who can speak to your academic ability and your capability of succeeding at doctoral level work. And we do faculty interviews for those that have meet the minimum threshold for possibility for admission. And then the final piece, and I think arguably the most important piece, aside from the transcripts, is a statement of research interest. We are looking to see that you have a clear sense of the direction that you want to go. You don't have to know your exact research question right now, but we want to know what you're interested in studying and what motivates you. How do you approach that? And then two, do your interests align with the faculty? Do you see connections between your work and the work that's being done here? That helps us when we're thinking about both admission and about funding, who might have the potential to work with which faculty members and so on, and who we potentially can offer funding to. So that's what the process looks like. And I will say that we'll do the initial review sometime in mid-January, invite folks to do the interviews. We'll probably send the invitations out the third week of January, somewhere in that time frame. And then we'll proceed from there. And then, so I went through a lot of information, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, because anytime you do a session like this, the most important thing is that you get the information you need to make an informed choice. I've been in your seat before. I remember going through doctoral education. I remember applying to institutions, and you're gathering a lot of information right now, and you want to find the best fit for you as well. Where are you going to thrive as a potential new scholar?